This edition of My Thoughts Monday is brought to you by Valve Performance, the team behind the Nordboard, Force Decks, the Groin Bar, and Human Track. Guys, the most important ability for all of our athletes is availability, and that's the absolute goal of Valve Performance, is to provide solutions to performance professionals so that we can get the right information to make the right decision at the right time for the betterment of the athletes that we get to work with. To do this, guys, they have a wide range of validated products that focus on usability, and having being founded by the School of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences at the Queensland University of Technology, they're extremely evidence-based and they're beyond transparent. I can tell you that our time using the Nordboard and being involved with Force Decks, we have been introduced to so many amazing people that have truly helped us become better coaches, have a better understanding, not just of the technology, but also what we're doing with our athletes. So make sure you hop over to valveperformance.com today to make sure you check out what they got. It's going to make you better and to do better by your athletes. The world of strength and conditioning is filled with some awesome practitioners who are always trying to evolve and continue to grow professionally throughout their career. The problem with many of us, though, is finding a new outlet, a new way, and a new perspective on the questions that we may have, whether it be programming, whether it be situational with dealing with coaches, or whether it be career advice. Because all too often what happens is we get stuck in with the same group of friends and the same group of colleagues that we reach out to for advice repeatedly over and over again. But what we should really be looking for is different perspectives, different people who have been through different situations who can help us make better decisions both for ourselves and our athletes. And one awesome place to start with that is the forums in the Strength Coach Network. In the forums in the Strength Coach Network, you'll be able to reach out and get feedback, input, and advice from coaches from all over the world, from everything from career advice to training modalities to programming. There's people there just for the same reason as you are, to try to get better, to learn, to share information, and to grow the field of strength and conditioning. So hop on over to strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS. That's strengthcoachnetwork.com/CVASPS to dive into all that great content today and get your 48-hour trial for only $1. I look forward to seeing you in the Strength Coach Network. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Jay DeMayo coming at you with this week's edition of My Thoughts Monday. As we continue to chip away at these presentations, and I throw my 2 cents out there, we get to Coach Jim Radcliffe's talk. And Coach Radcliffe is an absolute legend. He is one of the best to ever do it. And it was really just so exciting and so cool to have him in the building to talk at the 2019 edition of the seminar. And he brought it, man. He was awesome. And, I want to touch on 2 things here with Coach Rad. The first is, again, MJ caught the quote, and this quote perked me up a bit. When he said, training is a rehearsal, working out is not a rehearsal. It's an interesting thought, right? Because when you think of the word rehearsal, like what comes to my mind is, like bands or orchestras or people in the theater, right? Practicing what they need to do to be best at their recital, concert, or when the curtain goes up for the play. And you typically in rehearsal don't practice the whole thing. You just practice parts. You get better at the parts and you put the parts together as the whole. And when you put the whole together, that is when you perform at the play or whatever. Sounds like a really interesting way to look at the theory of dynamic correspondence, doesn't it? Like when you break it down like that. Like you need to break down what you're doing so that there is carryover to what you're doing in performance. But chances are you're not going to be able to perform the entire sporting exercise or play the sport or whatever for the whole lifting session or running session or whatever. So you need to work on characteristics that get you better at the sport. I think that quote is absolutely brilliant and is a way that I think people need to start to look more at how we're programming and how we're viewing this whole idea of dynamic correspondence. If you look at, like we use these books and these ideas and these thoughts of comparing training to what people do with concert pianists and stuff, right? Like the whole 10,000 hour rule that people like to talk about. But at the end of the day, we talk about how all we do is GPP. Well, to me, what he's saying is GPP is just working out. That's not a rehearsal. Now, okay, get it. Hold on. Brake pump. Quick. Yeah, the general's important. Yeah, the general can be a rehearsal at times, right? For the bigger thing, because when they're early on in their training age, we know that there can be tremendous improvements in performance just based on increasing general qualities. Yeah, I know. You don't have to get all riled up over that. But that only happens for so long, and we know that. And it probably happens for less as long as we like to think. With more and more people finding more and more that less and less is doing better, contrary to what people are putting in clickbait articles, yeah, I do think that what we're finding is the more that you can be directive towards improving specific qualities, the better we are going to be as these general qualities decrease in their ability to translate. So that was rad, pun intended, because that really got me to think a little bit more about how we're utilizing this theory of dynamic correspondence and where are better ways that we can do things, because if it isn't a recital, it's just working out. And with these kids, just working out is just busy work. And they don't got time for that. But the biggest takeaway that I took from Coach Rad, the biggest one, was his absolute non-stop energy and passion towards what he did and how he was sharing and what he brought to the table. It wasn't fake. It wasn't fabricated. It wasn't yelling and screaming and jumping up and down and dancing. It was passionate. It was excited. It was proud. And it was open and candid. And it was absolutely freaking sensational. People talk about the juice and all this stuff, like this fake hustle, fake energy, fake noise that you see too often. You want to know what juice is? The juice is Jim Radcliffe. The juice is a coach who's been in this game longer than anyone listening to this podcast. And to be totally honest, probably longer than 2/3 of you have been alive. Up there, fired up and excited to be part of an event. Excited to share his experiences. Excited to be able to be in this spot where he can not just talk to you about what he does, but answer questions about what he does and be open enough and candid enough to not hold punches. It's not jumping up and down and dancing. It's not screaming and yelling and coming up with your next catchphrase. It's actually giving a shit about the people there and giving your all to them. Now, I am going to be the first person to say this. I don't know if I could do that. And that may be the reason why there is only one Jim Radcliffe. And that may be the reason why he is one of the most respected practitioners to ever work with athletes. Is because he possesses this. And that's what makes him special. Not just that he can get the most out of his athletes and makes them faster and understands these principles that he's applying and all of those things, which of course are exceptionally important. But his ability to just exude passion and exude that it's important and that he's loving this moment. How could you not work your ass off for that guy? how could you not be fired up to come into the gym every day or out on the track every day or whatever it is? This whole idea of, the noise and all of that has become pretty forefronting with what we do, and it's been extremely polarizing, right? Like, in one sense, like, we want to talk about coaches not getting paid enough, and if these people are getting paid, then more power to you. Get you yours. But at the same time, if you make people look kind of like fools because you're misinterpreting what a man like Jim Radcliffe can bring and how he brings it and why he brings it as a teacher, as an educator, as a coach, as a practitioner, and as somebody that really cares about improving you, then I think that that's where we lose the forest for the trees. Again, I don't know if I'll ever be able to control a room like Jim Radcliffe does. I don't know if anyone will be able to. But I do know that that man sparked a new passion in me to try to be better. And he had my full 100% attention because I knew how fired up and excited he was and how much it meant to him just by how he was going through his talk. Not the tone of his voice, not him jumping up and down doing jumping jacks or screaming and yelling, but because you could tell by how he commanded the room that this was important. And his time is important, and he's giving it to you so that you can do things better. So think about that when you walk in your gym. What can you do to exude that care, to make sure that people know how important it is, to make sure that people know how dialed in you are for them? Doesn't mean you got to be yelling and screaming and jumping up and down. It doesn't mean you've got to be moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But it does mean you need to find better ways to be there for those individuals to understand that you're dialed in for them too. Thanks, Rad. I appreciate everything you've done, man. And your talk was awesome. And it really made me look in the mirror and think, you can't have those quiet days. You can't have those days where you're just sitting there in the back, kind of hiding and letting them go. You got to be in there with them because it's important for them. As always, guys, truly appreciate everything you do for us here at Central Virginia Sport Performance. We'll be back next week with another My Thoughts Monday. I'll see you then.